I've imported plants around 4 times now, and every time I did an unboxing video, but I never did a full update on how they're doing so far. So in this video, I'm going to go over all my plants that I imported and check on how they're doing. Starting with my oldest imports, the imports are from Aroid, which is an Indonesian nursery. I imported them first in October of 2020, and the plants were in such good condition that I had to import them again in December of 2020. So I got a lot of plants from them, and I'm going to start off with the bad one, which is this Anthurium clarinovium. It was actually in perfect condition when it was sent to me, but I'm just not really good at taking care of anthuriums, I noticed. When it came to me, I had it potted in soil, and it really didn't do anything for me, and the leaves even started to get yellow. That's when I knew I needed to make some change, so now I have it potted in leca, which is a semi-hydro medium. It seems to be liking it here a lot more. Recently, it gave me this new leaf, which is a lot smaller than the original leaves, but it's starting to give me a new leaf, and there's a new growth point right here. This summer, it even flowered for me, so I think changing it into leca really made a difference. Let me know if you guys have some tips on how to take care of the Anthurium clarinovium. The other plants that I have from this import is in my other room, so we're just gonna go there and see how they're doing now. Here we're in my living room, where I tend to put plants in better condition here to display. So this is my Philodendron pestizanum. This one I got in my first import from AirAsia, and it was just in perfect condition. It had like a leaf that I cut off by accident as I was unwrapping the plants. That was my fault, but other than that, they were in perfect condition. And I think I just soaked it in water for 2 days before I repotted it. Since I've done that, it's given me all the new leaves. The older leaves actually all died away, so the ones that you have here are all the newer ones. This one is the oldest one, and then you can see that each leaf that came out just gradually became bigger. Even though now is the winter, it's still producing new leaves. You can see over here, this one just popped out 2 days ago. So it's doing really well. Another plant that was doing really well from my import from AroAsia is this Philodendron gloriosum. When I first had it, it had 3 leaves, no casualties whatsoever. Again, I just soaked it in water for 2 days and I repotted it immediately. Since a year ago, it's already given me, I think, 4 new leaves. It doubled in size. These kind of plants are runner plants, so they grow horizontally. Eventually, it's just gonna grow out of the pot, and hopefully next spring I can repot this. One of my favorite plants. I just love the way it feels, I love the way it looks, and they're doing really good in this corner. Other plants that I got from the same import is this Anthurium vitarifolium. This was one of my first anthuriums, arrived in perfect condition. I think it was just beginner's luck because everything that came from this first import was perfect. But what happened was that I overwatered it, and that's when it just started to rot all of the roots away. The leaves were getting kind of sad, and it took a while to rehab this. I think I finally got it right. Now it's just living in orchid bark and some moss, and I just like sprayed a little bit, because the roots are very much like orchids, so they just need some like moisture, but it can't be too wet. And there's a new growth point right here. This Philodendron Red Queen also arrived in really good condition. What I liked about it is it has a very distinctive feature, which is the red backs that you see over here. At first, you can't tell why it's called the Red Queen, but as you look closer, you'll find that it has these red backs and it grows like crazy. This plant didn't even seem like it was shipped. It just started growing immediately when I potted in soil. And it also grows these aerial roots that shoot out from inside of this little pocket of the leaf. I find that it does that for every single growth point. So I think it's a really good plant to propagate as well, but I just haven't had the heart to propagate it. I just kind of let it grow out. This is also a plant that probably doubled in size as well. This is the Philodendron atababawense. It's elongated, and when you look at the back, it has this red color to it that's very distinct to this plant. When it matures, this burgundy color becomes darker. This was a plant that Caesar also wanted, so I took a cutting off of my plant. I kept the top cutting and he got the bottom cutting. After I cut it, it was just not happy with me and it hasn't grown since. Even though I gave it like a moss bowl to kind of encourage it to grow, it just hasn't really liked me since I cut it. So we'll see what happens after the winter. Hopefully it'll start to grow again. Now we're in my dining room where we're gonna go over the second round of my Asia imports. I was really into anthuriums, so I got another anthurium. This is the Anthurium veitchii. They're known for the ripples in its leaf. This is a juvenile of that plant, so you can see some creases. It hasn't fully developed the ripples yet. When I got it, it was around the same size. I mean, it didn't really grow because it was in soil. Since my other anthurium was doing so well in leca, I decided to change this into leca recently, and it's rooting a lot more. We'll see, maybe next year I'll grow a lot more so that I can share this plant with my friend Caesar because we actually bought this together. Another plant that I got during this import is another anthurium. This is the Anthurium crystallinum. I'm really in love with the velvety touch of these leaves and also the silver veining of it. So I got a lot of anthuriums because of that. When I imported it, it was in perfect condition and I just potted it in soil immediately. And this one, I think it's just a more easy to care for anthurium. It was doing really well in just soil. I do have on top some moss to cover the base of the plant because I heard that that will encourage more root growth, and it seems to be doing well so far. I also got another plant from this import and it's in my living room, so we're gonna go check it out. Continuing with the second round of imports from Asia, this is another plant that I got. It's the Philodendron Golden Dragon. I imported it with Caesar and we actually split this plant on the spot. When we first got it, it was in such good condition. It had multiple aerial roots, so we just cut it. I think I got the bottom cutting and he got the top cutting, or the other way. But anyways, this is the original leaf that it came with, and you can see that it's a lot bigger than the other leaves that are grown in my apartment. I believe this has to do with, you know, the conditions that it's in. It was in a tropical environment where it had like the ideal condition for growing. And in this apartment, it just is a lot smaller, but it's still growing really well. It's growing really fast and it has a new leaf that just shot out, even though it's the winter right now. So good job. This is the Philodendron Dark Lord, and the reason why it's called that way is because of the colors of its leaves. It's so dark that it actually looks black, but these are actually green colored leaves. This is a plant that's not mine, it's Chucky's, and he got it solely because of the name of the plant. He thought it was really cool. When we first got it, it was in really good condition again. I just like soaked it in water for 2 days and immediately potted in soil. Hopefully it'll get used to this apartment. It's been a year, so maybe some plants just take longer to acclimate compared to others. The next plant was purchased by my friend Caesar, but we imported it at the same time from Asia, and that is the Philodendron Paricio Verde. He was kind enough to give me a cutting of it when his got really big, and the cutting he gave me had these reverted leaves on it, but you can see that it had like potential. And on an unfortunate event, I dropped it and snapped it in half. When that happened, it kind of kickstarted it and it got these leaves again, which is how a Paricio Verde is supposed to look like. So I was really happy about that. And when you look closely, it has this pink edge to it that you don't see with other plants. It's a weirdo, but I like it a lot. It's a plant that you definitely have to get used to looking at, and has a different aesthetic compared to other plants. But I kind of like the way it looks. It's cute. In the end, I had a good experience with importing plants from Asia. All the plants shipped really well and they acclimated really well in my apartment. I highly recommend this place if you guys are looking to import plants. The next set of plants I imported from a different company. It's called Succulent Asia and it's also from Indonesia. These plants I imported last year December as well, and they're known for their succulents and also their snake plants. So I ordered a lot of snake plants from them. These are just a few of them that you can check out from my unboxing video, and they've grown so much more since that video. For when they first came to me, they were bare rooted and a lot of the leaves were really wrinkly. It took around a month for it to generate new roots, and since then it's been doing a lot better. So here you can see a different kind of snake plant that you don't usually see. This is called the variegated royal crown, and it grows from the center very much like a crown. The next one I have here is called the sweet celery, and it grew a lot. They actually produced 3 pups over here, and this one I like a lot because it reminds me of an aloe, but it's more hardier and sturdier than an aloe. In the back over here I have another one. I think this is called the Brulong, and you can see that all these spikes are new, so these are all new leaves that are coming out of it, and there's also a new leaf that's coming out here. They're all super easy to take care of because they're snake plants. They're all low maintenance and don't require much. Even though they were bare rooted and barely had any roots, they all like sprung back in a couple of weeks. This is a hybrid one. This is called the Dory and the Penguincula, which is pretty interesting. But the main reason why I imported from them was because I was obsessed with their variegated snake plant. Is this plant, which is the variegated version of the whale fin. And I just never seen variegation like this on this plant before. It has a kind of translucent, creamy color to it. And if you guys remember from my unboxing video, this was completely closed up. It was like very dried up and dehydrated, and it was closed up like a taco. And after a couple months of rehabbing, it slowly to open up, and now it's back to its normal stage and it started to develop roots. So I'm really happy about this plant. There was another snake plant that was in that platter of snake plants, and that is the Golden Wendy. It wasn't doing that well there. I think it needed a bit more room. It was just kind of wrapped up like a piece of tissue, and when I repotted it here, it slowly began to unravel itself, and you can really see the beautiful marks it has. It has these yellow streaks and also this kind of tiger pattern on it, which is pretty interesting. But generally, I was really happy with all the plants that I got from Succulent Asia. They all survived and they rehabbed really well. The next 2 plants are from my more recent import from Ecuagenera. It's this company based in Ecuador. So I figured the plants will look a lot better, and in my unboxing video they did look pretty good. But after a couple of days, it kind of slowly acclimated and started to lose its leaves, like this Philodendron fibrosum. The Philodendron fibrosum is known for its fuzzy petioles, kind of like the Scoriferum. And when I first got this, it looked really good in my unboxing video. What I forget to check was the roots. So when I opened the bag of moss and I checked the roots, all the roots has rotted, and it was only back to this stump and 2 leaves. Because it didn't have any roots, I decided to just stick it in water, and so far hasn't really done much of anything other than lose like the remaining 2 leaves that it has. But I have high hopes for it. I see a new growth point coming out here, and maybe I'll transition it into a different medium. Right now I have it in water, and I also put leca in it just to hold it in place. Right now I have it living in my ICU where it's on top of a heat mat. So hopefully that heat mat will encourage it to grow more roots. But right now it's just been looking like this for the past 4 months. But it's not dead yet, so there's hope. Another plant that I got from them was the Anthurium regale. So the Anthurium regale looked really nice when I first got it. If you guys looked at my unboxing video, the leaf was like the size of my head. And you can see right now that it's obviously not the same anymore. So what happened was that it looked really nice, the leaves are really nice, but if the roots are not there, it will slowly start to deteriorate. I tried to save it in multiple ways. I stuck it in water, it didn't do anything. And I think what was lacking was the humidity level. because I don't have a greenhouse, what I did was I chopped it up so that I could put it in this bag. What I have here is the 2 stumps that I was able to save, and look, it's actually doing something. There's a new leaf growing over here. So what I did was that I cut the stumps and I put it in perlite and I stuck it in a bag and I just forgot about it. That actually encouraged it to grow new roots that you can see over here. And there's also a new growth point where I have this new leaf coming out. So these anthuriums really like humidity, and since I put it in the right environment, it started growing again. Hopefully in the summer it'll start to produce these beautiful leaves like how I first imported it. But I would say my import from Ecuagenera was my least successful one. They're not dead, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done to rehab these plants. Since we're here in this rehab area, I want to show you plants from my most recent import from Chlorosoil, which is a nursery also in Indonesia. I have a couple plants here that I want to show you. First is this one, which is in my butterbeer mug from Harry Potter. You guys should go check it out. But in here I have my Alocasia cuprea. When I first got it, I had 2 leaves on it and they looked like they were about to fall off. And of course they did fall off. It had a couple of roots, but that also slowly all rotted away. And I knew this was gonna happen because alocasias don't do really well in transition, so it's kind of an experiment that I was doing. Right now, it's still savable, so the bulb is perfectly fine, and I have it living in ponds. I thought ponds would be a good medium because it'll provide the perfect amount of moisture, and I see that some roots are already forming, so we'll see how this one does in a couple of weeks. But right now it's living in my plant ICU. A few plants that are about to graduate out of this area is also this philodendron melanochrysum that I got from Chlorosoil. This was in pretty good condition. It had 3 leaves when I got it, and 1 of them fell off, and this was a new leaf that was still brand new. It was still really soft, and now it developed and it hardened. I have this living in moss because it didn't really have that much roots. It had some, but I figured that if I put it in moss, it'll encourage it to grow more roots. My experience with philodendrons is that they root really well in moss. So here you can see that it's developed some new roots over here. They're fuzzy, so you can tell that they're new. I think it's doing perfectly fine. Nothing was really wrong with it. I just wanted to keep it in here to grow more roots before I pot it in soil. Another plant that I got from Chlorosoil is this one, an Anthurium silver blush. Let me see if I can take this out properly. Okay, so this was another plant. It's very similar to the Anthurium crystallinum, but the silver markings are supposed to be a lot thicker and wider. So this plant was shipped really nicely. It had roots already and it had new leaves. The other anthuriums I have are in soil or in leca, so with this one I decided to experiment with ponds to see if anthuriums will like that better, but it seems to be liking the ponds. I have it in a semi-hydro pot that I got from Amazon, and look, you can see that there's roots already forming and coming out from the bottom, so it seems to be really liking this. It doesn't really need to be in this plant ICU anymore. I can change it to another location, but I'm really happy with how the anthuriums are doing in ponds. The other plants that I got from Chlorosoil are doing really well, so I already potted them in soil. Variegated Epiprenum panatum. I think I'm saying that right, I'm not sure. But this had a lot of roots. It was a very strong baby plant. And since I repotted it in soil, I gave it a moss pole to climb on. It's already giving me a new leaf. I really like this plant because it has this variegation that's different on every leaf. Every single time it has a new leaf, it's completely different. I would say this is a pretty fast grower. It's already growing out of this moss pole, so I have to give it something eventually. This is just the juvenile version of the plant. When it gets matures, it develops splits very much like the monstera. The next plant I want to show you is this Syngonium. This is the Syngonium albo, and when I first got it, this was already in really good condition. I was doing an experiment again, and I had it living in ponds. It completely outgrew that pot, and just yesterday I potted it in soil. This ceramic pot is actually from my friend Amy Ceramics. She's experimenting with different forms and different glazing, and she sent this to me, and I'm really happy about this because it complements this plant really nicely. I think the matcha green really complements the color of this plant. The new leaves that come out, they come out kind of light and creamy yellow, and as they mature, it becomes this white color. So it's also another interesting plant to have. This one grows in a really wonky shape, but I kind of like how it's growing like that. It's a very whimsical plant. It gives me like a watermelon vibe with the pink and the green. These are the plants that I got in the dining room. I'm going to show you the living room plants that I got from the same import. This plant is also imported from Chlorosoil as well. This is the Philodendron Florida Ghost. This plant is doing really well. This is the original leaf that came with it, and since then it's grown 3 new leaves, and it seems like there's multiple growth points as well. I imported it in September, so in 3 months it already started growing like crazy. This plant is known for turning from white creamy leaves to green leaves. You can see that the older leaves are green, and then this newer one, you can see that it's transitioning from that creamy color to that dark green color. Obviously it's winter, so then some leaves are dying off like this oldest one, but I'm not too worried about it because it's the oldest leaf that's dying off, which is normal. Overall, I can't complain about this plant. It's doing really well even though it's the winter. This is the Philodendron myoi. It's very similar to the Philodendron hope, except that this grows vertically. And when I first got it, I had 1 leaf cutting. This was already being developed as it was being shipped to my house. And when it came out, I think it went into shock, so it looks a little bit wonky. After that, it started to grow normally again, and it's starting to get that form that's similar to this. It's also a very prolific grower, and it already has a 4th leaf coming out right here. So it's acclimating really nicely in this house. I would highly recommend just getting philodendrons when you're having them being imported or whether you're shipping them, because they tend to do really well during shipping and they acclimate to your house really quickly. Chlorosoil is the last import that I made in 2021, and I was really happy with the results. They're all acclimating pretty nicely, even the Alocasia cuprea, which is kind of sad right now, but at least it's still alive. It just needs to be rehabbed and needs a little bit of love, and they'll all acclimate nicely in my house. All the plants that I showed you are imported from these 4 places: Aroid Asia, Succulent Asia, Ecuagenera, and Chlorosoil. And as you can see, mostly they're doing pretty good in my apartment, other than 1 or 2 oddballs that are still acclimating. I know you guys are really worried, but as you can see in this tour, there's nothing to be afraid of. And if you have any questions about importing plants, you can leave it in the comments below, or you can check out my blog Before Importing Plants, where I will answer most of your questions. And if you just imported plants and you don't know what to do with your plants after you receive them, you can check out this video where I show you how I take care of my plants after I receive them. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you liked it, don't forget the 10-second challenge to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with all your friends. Thank you so much, and see you next week. Bye!